There are names in the records of Durin's folk that even the elves forget. They lie buried in ledgers, deep in the vaults of Erebor, scrawled in ink grown faint with time. Yet among dwarves, memory is not held in pages, it is held in iron, in stone, and in the weight of things passed from hand to hand. One such weight was a plain warhammer. No name, no inscription, no jewel set into its haft. But it had a history, and that history began with Grór, son of Dáin I, long before dragons stirred the gold in the lonely mountain. The hammer was forged not in the heart of Erebor, but in the outposts of the Grey Mountains, where dwarves once mined silver and obsidian, until the cold and the dragons made the land unlivable. Grór was young then, though already broad-shouldered and black-bearded like his kin, and had earned the weapon in the tunnels of Mount Gundabad during a siege most now forget. But this tale is not of that war, it is of the one that followed. The skirmish at the teeth of snow. It was in the year 2785 of the Third Age, when the folk of Run, cruel men from beyond the Sea of Grass, began probing the eastern flanks of Erebor. They did not come with full armies, but with fast, quiet raiders who struck at caravans and border halls. Word came of iron-tipped spears, of dwarf merchants dragged from their wagons, and of cave mouths burned and looted. Grór, then lord of a small stronghold east of Erebor, rode to meet them not with a host, but with 30 loyal dwarves, smiths, miners, and warriors both. They made their stand in a narrow pass called the Teeth of Snow, where ice broke into jagged columns and cliffs offered only one way through. There that Grór first felt the true burden of legacy, for he knew that if they failed, the raiders would find a path to Erebor's heart. The warhammer's song. The hammer he carried was heavy, though not in weight. It bore the scratches of orc helmets, the cracks of goblin shields. Its face was square and scarred, but Grór's hand fit it like an old friend. He said no words to it, nor gave it a name. Dwarves, he said, needed no poetry for good tools. The Easterlings came at dusk, 5 for every dwarf. They wore long robes over armor of bone and bronze. Their chief bore a crescent axe and spoke no words, only lifted a black banner and pointed forward. The first charge broke against the dwarves like a tide. Spears shattered on stone. Grór fought not like a king, but like a tunnel watcher, close, brutal, without waste. The hammer rose and fell, crushing jaw and helm alike. It made no music, only meat and metal and the sound of war. His shield splintered. His helm was cracked. But the pass held. For hours they fought in freezing mist under the shadows of cliffs that bore witness to an old world. And then came the chieftain of Run. He was tall, broad, marked in red from head to heel. His axe could split a stone block clean. With one swing, he felled 3 dwarves. Grór stepped forward, battered but unbowed, and met him at the narrowing of the pass. They did not speak, they fought. The turning, the hammer met the axe, once, twice. On the third clash, the haft of Grór's weapon cracked, but the head did not fall. He dropped the splintered shaft and caught the hammer's weight barehanded. Gritting his teeth, he drove it low, into the Easterling's knee, then swung again. With both arms, overhead, bone cracked. The chieftain fell. The line of Run broke. The raiders fled into the dark, but Grór sank to one knee. He had taken a blade under the ribs in the final blow, deep and crooked. His blood steamed on the snow. The farewell, they carried him back to Erebor. The wound festered. No balm nor dwarf healer could root it out. On his final night, he sat with his son, a younger dwarf, red-haired, quiet-eyed. Glóin. Grór pressed the hammer, bound in cloth, into his son's hands. "Keep it near," he said. "It has work yet to do." Then he slept and woke no more. The line continued. Glóin bore the hammer when he stood at the gates of Erebor during the war of the dwarves and orcs. He carried it across the wastes when Smaug took the mountain. He set it beside his bedroll when he crossed the misty mountains, and again when he sat in Elrond's hall in Rivendell. And one day his son, a certain bold-hearted dwarf named Gimli, gripped it in his own hands, not as his chosen weapon, but as a symbol of where he had come from, of who had come before. Yet he did not know how this warhammer would one day touch the fate of Middle-earth.